All right. Well, so after 5 minutes of technical issues, we start the Real Deal Landman podcast from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from the Tulsa Association of Professional Landmen. This is the first dinner get together of the year. Is that right? So, I mean, this is kind of a new deal for us of being able to take the show on the road. And, I made the trip. I came over here. I cracked my windshield coming down the highway, got a rock kicked up on it. Asked Jerris a long time ago if he wanted to join, and he said absolutely not. So I just want you guys to know the sacrifices that were made here. Jerris, have you made any sacrifices to be a part today?
So no, I haven't.
Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know, and let everybody know where you're filming from today.
So I am filming from my studio, aka my office, inside of my house in Colorado Springs.
Jerris is our Colorado correspondent, keeps us up to date on all Colorado issues, and good to see him. We've got to do the show in Oklahoma City together a few times now. That's where I office out of, right in the middle of Oklahoma City. And so if you ever do have the wild hair that you would like to be on the show, we'd love to have you at our studio there. And things move pretty smoothly there without cell phones and cords to trip over and all sorts of other things. But pretty fantastic. But Jerris, I haven't seen you since the good days of NAPE.
No.
How did it go for you? And first off, how many people in here went to NAPE? Pretty about half the crowd here.
Pretty solid.
Pretty solid. Was it a good NAPE? Did you feel like the energy was really back? Did you feel like it was good happy hours, everything like that? I thought the happy hours were pretty fantastic this year. We did on the second day of it, we did 10 in one day, which at 43 years old, I don't want to do more than 3. And so that was a little much, but the conference itself was really good.
Yeah, I agree. We had a booth that was set up there. We had some folks drop by. I was pretty excited about the fact that I think you mentioned, Drew, that on Thursday you went over there expecting that you would have some peace and quiet to be able to work because like nobody would ever come by and see us. And I think you said you weren't even able to crack open your computer. So that's pretty cool. I think everybody was there to try and get one of the slap bracelets. And since Lonnie dropped the ball and didn't have the slap bracelets there, I assume you have them with you tonight.
I normally would, but in leaving in my haste in Oklahoma City to make sure that I could get my windshield busted just at the precise time, I left those. So much like at NAPE, if anybody would like a Real Deal Landman slap bracelet, you get one sent to you. All we need is your business card or just send me a mailing address and you get maybe the hottest giveaway item of NAPE or, I don't know, any podcast that I know that's giving away stuff.
I kid you not that long ago, I was doing a conference call with some folks for our new Roland AI product. And somebody got on the camera and it was like flashing his wrist on there that he had his wristband. And he's like, "Where's yours?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't even have one yet. Drew hasn't given me one."
And with my current record of being able to bring them to different events like this, or probably bring them the next time I see you, you'll get one 2026, 2027, assuredly. Absolutely, assuredly.
Okay.
And to fill everybody in on these slap bracelets, if anybody remembers like what was it? Would you say 90, 95, 96 around then? Is that whenever the slap bracelets were big?
No. Try like 88, 89.
89?
Yeah.
Mid-90s? Okay, mid-late 90s. So the slap bracelets were like the coolest thing that I thought because at the Ponca City bowling alley, like I could get them there. And it was high society if you were running around with a slap bracelet from the bowling alley. So I thought, what better way to really celebrate what NAPE has to offer than bring that back, do the slap bracelets. And the whole rundown with this is, if you get a slap bracelet, the slap bracelet is free. You can get the slap bracelet for free. Now, if you go to an event that I am at and you see me at the event and you come up to me and you show me that you're wearing the slap bracelet, and I know that's a lot of steps. Obviously. But I will give you every bit of cash that I have in my pocket. So that could be a lot. That could be a little. Some days I have a little bit more than others, but we're going to test this theory. We're going to see how exactly broke we could go in the next couple of years, but I think it'd be kind of fun.
Drew, I would like to up that ante, and I would like to say that if anybody approaches me at some type of event or party and they're wearing a slat bracelet, I will commit that they can have all the cash out of your wallet as well.
Nape was good. Roland's debut was good. The Real Deal Landman, it was so nice that the AAPL and the Nape conference gave us a 10x10 booth. We had them on the podcast at one point, and they just wanted to kind of see where it would go. And like Jerris said, I thought, nobody's going to go to this thing. Like nobody's gonna come by it. And we had a steady flow of people coming by, and that was number one. I think I said it was very overwhelming. It was pretty cool, but it was also a little concerning because we were like, well, now we're gonna have to really keep this up, and we're gonna have to make sure we put even more into it.
And our response to that is to not do a single episode since Nape.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, this is the first episode back after Nape. It has been incredibly busy just kicking off the year. And it's really fun to see kind of some excitement back in the industry. The events that we've been to already in Q1 have been pretty awesome.
Yeah. So what have you been up to in the last few weeks? We haven't hardly talked at all. So what are some cool stuff you've got going on?
We've been just for our business. We've been around to all the absolute fun places. I don't know if you've heard of Midland, Texas.
No way.
Absolutely
Wow.
Glorious right out of the gate of the year. We went to Calgary for a while. It was -15 while we were there. That was the first time I'd ever been to Calgary. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was fantastic. We've just really been traveling around. We're doing Denver the rest of this week and then back to Houston next week. So for a consulting firm like that we run, it is imperative that we continue to stay in front and meet new companies and continue to kind of build out our, like, the most important thing I think that anybody here would say is your network. And I know that was the thing that really benefited me. Larry and I were just talking about this not 15 minutes ago, of the time spent at an E&P company, the time spent in, the vendor space. Being able to meet so many people was so beneficial throughout the entire career. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know if there's companies that will downsize, or you never know whenever, consolidation might hit you. And to be able to have a very strong list of people that you can contact, people to mentor you, people to continue to help you throughout your career, that has been the biggest blessing on my career. And being able to continue to expand that out and meet new people at events like this, it's pretty awesome. So we're doing that pretty strong with our company right now and continuing to grow. And it's growth mode is always fun, right?
Yeah. So I like the fact that you just announced to the rest of the world that you were going to be in Denver this week, which I live about 45 minutes from, but you failed to tell that to me that you were going to be. Is that intentional?
I don't need a ride from the airport this time. I've got my own Uber.
I wasn't going to pick you up. Why would I?
Man, well, what we want to do tonight is one of your own has been so gracious on being able to be kind of interviewed with this. We always like with the podcast of being able to bring somebody on. Every single person, kind of like what we said earlier, is everybody in this room has their own experience, how you got to this seat tonight and how you got to be associated with this great organization. And so we've got Brett Gwartney to be able to come in and to be able to talk to us tonight. So Brett, number one, thank you for having us.
No, appreciate you guys coming and doing this.
Definitely. And we are excited to be able to talk to you a little bit. So give me and anybody in here that I'm sure most of the crowd here is probably very familiar with you, but for the 4 or 5 that might not be, give me a rundown of your kind of career and how you got to be in the landman space.
Sure. So grew up over in Fort Smith, came to TU for undergrad, then went to law school, worked at the sheriff's department for a while. So it was kind of a circuitous route to getting into land. I'm sure you get most people in here familiar with Jim Slade. He heard I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, told me about there used to be a landman training course over in Edmond called Energy Force.
I remember Energy Force. Yeah.
So I think it was a couple of the Gagliardi boys, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but so it was a 3-day course with a test at the end. Then my first gig was $125 day rate in Goodland, Kansas, buying leases for Sandridge, I believe it was.
Fantastic.
And so, when we were talking about networking and stuff like that and how important it is, I don't think I've ever gotten a job that wasn't somehow related to networking. Even that the first gig at Chesapeake, I think Drew got my resume passed around. I ended up in the Barnett group. So the first day I was there, I got a call from Chesapeake's HR saying, "Hey, we want to interview you." And I'm like, "Okay, the best I've got is a sport coat and a button down." They're like, "You can interview Friday. Everyone will be in jeans. It doesn't matter."
And what year was this at Chesapeake?
2011.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And I'm kind of interested with the Department of Corrections beforehand. How did that come?
Came out of law school in 2010. So, there may have been a little recession or something going along
Just a little bit.
at that point in time. Had a family friend who's one of the chief deputies at the sheriff's department, and they were starting a risk management group, and they were looking for someone to be their first kind of in-house legal counsel. And so they're like, "But we're going to deputize you. It'll be great. You get to carry a gun, do all the fun stuff. Downside is everyone who gets deputized has to go through the jail academy." And so I start over in the jail, and I think we were in week 3 and they went into a hiring freeze. And so I spent about 6 months working at the jail and the pods with the inmates for 8 hours a day.
Working with the inmates and working in the jail, was there any carryover of what did you learn there that really gave you that leg up in the landman world?
So I'll say one thing is, like, after being in there, like I said, we were understaffed, so it was 8-hour shifts, really no break. And dealing with the people that were in there, one, you got to see the human side of everything, kind of getting a better understanding of, we all come from different backgrounds. And, if a rough patch comes up for most people, they're going to try to lock in, do whatever they can within legal means. Not everyone follows that same code in their life. But, there's obviously setbacks with being a felon and different things like that. But I think the biggest thing was just not to be intimidated by anyone. So, if you're in these pods with between 75 and 110 inmates and just you, and these people are in there for all sorts of different things, including murder and various violent acts, talking to someone who's a CEO just doesn't have the same.
Not as intimidating,
No.
right?
But I think it also kind of taught me, you got to put the time in. You need to get to know people. Relationships are important. And, dealing with people in a fair and equitable way is important, which I think I've carried forward or tried to. But I think it really kind of gave a good perspective on that.
That's interesting.
When I was a kid, we had a new Sunday school teacher that came in. And her first day of class as the Sunday school teacher walked into the room and said, "I don't know what your behavior is like, but I just want everybody to know that I am a prison guard and the inmates call me Satan." And so that was Satan, the prison guard.
They had a nickname for me too. It's almost as scary. They called me Fisherman. And so one of the pods I worked was like the U.S. Marshal Ice Hold pod. And so there's a Russian guy that was in there, and he was probably about your height, weighed probably about twice as much. And one day I walk up and he slams this piece of paper on the glass and he points at it and he says, "This is you, the fisherman." And he was like, "You walk around, you always fishing for stuff to catch us." But we actually kind of struck up a friendship, funny enough, in there. And as I was working my way out of being in the jail, he did come to me one day and said, "I appreciate you and like treating us as people and different things." So I think that's, one of the reasons that story is stuck with me for so long.
That's really good. That's really nice. Chris, I hope you don't mind. This is the first time on the Real Deal Landman that we've decided to have a sit down meal in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
looks
if
good.
you've got anything, do you have anything that you can eat so you can feel like you're a part of this?
I've got gum.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll definitely work.
Cool. Thank you.
Transitioning out of Department of Corrections and into like landman work, so broker work. Is that what you started with?
Yes.
And what area?
So it was in southern Kansas or western Kansas. Okay. So Goodland is like 2 hours, I think, from the Colorado border. So it was about an 8-hour drive.
And doing courthouses and
No, just talking to farmers, but it only lasted a week.
But-
because I got the job at Chesapeake.
this was a fantastic week. I appreciate everything you did for me. I learned a lot. How many hands in this room Chesapeake ties worked at Chesapeake at some point? One. Only 2?
Wow.
That's so. One of the things so I started Chesapeake in 04 and went through 17. And one of the most unique things that again, kind of goes back to that network has been we can land at like Denver International and we can drive downtown and we can get out of a cab and we can go into a restaurant, we can go into a bar and you see 3 or 4 people from Chesapeake, or you see 3 or 4 people that are like that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon separation, you know? It's always that 7 degrees away from like Chesapeake. And it's very, very interesting. And so you spent how many years there? Just 3?
3.5.
3.5 years. Okay. And it worked primarily Barnett while you were there?
I worked Barnett and Miss Line.
So what'd you learn in Barnett? Were you having to go down there and talk to landowners too?
Yeah, I learned that you don't want to go down there in a Chesapeake marked vehicle.
Yes, that's exactly right. We actually had there was a short time where I think we were either covering up the badges on the cars with magnets or driving personal vehicles and repaying. If I remember, I'm not like letting away too many old company secrets. They're not a thing anymore. So yeah, we can get real into detail if we'd like.
Yeah, we always requested the unmarked vehicles.
That's good. I'm trying to think the place where I would go down. And Jerris, where were you? You were Barnett as well, or no?
No,
Nope.
I did Permian until we sold Permian, and then I was in the Eagleford for a little bit.
Okay. There's a place that I remember, and it was Haltom City. Did you have to go in Haltom? Oh, Haltom was it was an interesting. I don't remember if it was like a mile by a mile by a mile, but it was pretty small and it was pretty rough. And we'd have to go in and talk by like neighbor by neighbor, and there was some pretty interesting conversations there. And again, where you said that like the prisoner would be my height but 200 pounds heavier. So back in like 06, 07, 08, instead of being my height and what I currently am, like 200 pounds, I was like my height and like 140 or something. So did not do well on any intimidation was not my game. I can definitely say that. Learning a lot with that and being able to kind of glean kind of what you can take away from it, like that you probably got a lot coming out of that to be able to prepare you for the next roles you took on.
Oh, I think so. I mean, and then, the other thing with Barnett is we'd have to go down and do open group leasing and different things. And so those were always interesting times where I had a lady that came up to me one time and told me our rig was vibrating her building. And I asked her where she lived and had a map, pulled out the map. And I was like, well, our rig's, 6 miles away. So I really have a hard time believing it's our rig. But they saw the Chesapeake emblem on our shirts and it was, whatever we need to do to try to get more money out of them.
That's exactly right. No, that definitely happened. Jerris, did you run into anything similar of any land disputes or people anything like that?
No, so I haven't, just to be really honest, like I haven't had a whole lot of the stereotypical landowner interactions. Now I have had to renegotiate oil and gas leases or farm out agreements that involved either companies or really large leasehold deals or really large mineral owners. But kind of those individual interactions, I haven't really had a whole lot of. And honestly, like, I don't know how good I would be at that. Like, and that's one of the things that is really fascinating about this profession is, as niche as it sounds, there's really a wide array of different functions and tasks and roles that people take on. And so I've always tried to understand some of the things that maybe I'm good at and some of the things that I'm not good at, and focus more on bettering myself and bettering my stakeholders on the things that I am good at, and maybe letting other people do the other stuff, like surface damage negotiations. I have a huge respect for those guys that can go out and do that job, because it's just not in me. It's not in me to be able to do that. And, really good surface guy is a really valuable person. Like when you find somebody who's really, really good at a particular land task, man, take care of them, because more than likely they do it better than anybody else. And that's a really valuable asset when you recognize that in somebody.
Exactly right. So currently you're with who?
Currently with Rimrock.
With Rimrock, and been with them for how long now?
It'll be a year at the end of this month.
Nice. So how would you describe, so the Tulsa scene, I can tell you, like from the Oklahoma City, we've seen a lot of consolidation. It's a completely different landscape than what it was a year ago, 5 years ago, obviously 10 years ago. How do you see the Tulsa landscape?
I mean, I think the Tulsa landscape's probably changed a lot more than Oklahoma City's has. I mean, you have WPX that ended up basically over in Oklahoma City. You've had Cimarex that did their merger, and then, now they've got 12 people in their office here. Sampson used to be down here. I mean, you were talking about the Chesapeake connection in Oklahoma City. I feel like in Tulsa, it's kind of the Sampson Mafia deal of everyone has touched Sampson at some point in their careers here. I think what really kind of hits home, especially being at TAPL tonight with all the consolidation, is, so happy to see this many people out again, because our meetings have been kind of smaller numbers. So I think we've kind of seen that impact as a board of, have put a little bit more thought into budgeting, and sponsoring becomes a different task when you've got so many companies that have left. And it's not, there's been a bunch of consolidation, I would say, as far as M&A, but then you've also just had quite a few smash codes or different things. There's been a lot more, I would say, private equity companies here versus Oklahoma City. And so I think that's, hurt us too. These smash codes keep happening, and you just don't need staff.
Yeah.
So
have you guys seen any new startups? Like, are there any new startups in Tulsa that are gaining any steam? We've seen a few in Oklahoma City of where, with the consolidation, people have let go of some of the asset bases that it's not their core. And so we've seen a few smaller companies build up or working to it. But I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think we've had some groups that have, put some stuff together. I mean, we got the command guys that are here and gals. Gavin's got his new group, Anthem, that they've put some people together. I think they finally filed some OCC work last week or this week on getting a pooling put together. I'd say there probably haven't been a whole lot of other startups.
Those are good names. And I mean, Command you guys have done so well. Like, I mean, honestly, crushing it. That's right. When are you going to buy Chesapeake's campus? Is what I want.
6 weeks.
Okay, 6 weeks. You're under contract. Can't talk about it, right? Can't talk about it. That's one of the wildest things in Oklahoma City of us trying to figure out. Like, this has been going on years now at this point of what's going to take over the Chesapeake space. Like, everybody's been by the campus. They've seen the campus, right? Okay, 100%. Everybody's like, it's going to be a college campus. What college is going to relocate, or what small college? There's no way. I cannot imagine it not being put into multi-use, but I just don't know. It's just such an iconic area. So we're taking bets, is what I'm saying. If you want to come up here and get like the money line, let me know. We'll play this thing out. It's going to be interesting to see.
My question for you guys, and for Brett and anybody else who might be there, Drew, so when you see this consolidation that's happening, and it sounds like that's made an impact to membership of Tulsa APL, what do you do in that? Do you accept that these are our circumstances, and this is the membership body that we have, and we're going to try and make it the best experience possible for those folks? Do you feel like there's a large pool of members that are out there, or potential members that are out there, that you need to try and go and recruit and show them the value of it? What do you think in those circumstances?
Sure, and I'll let Lawson correct me on any of these stats, but I would say with the amount of exits that we've had in Tulsa, I mean, our membership has taken a hit, but I feel like overall it's remained. We've got a strong core. Percentage-wise, we're down 10, 15%.
12%.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
It's precise. I like it. That's good.
So, I think that's been one of the kind of hot topic issues, I would say, over our last few board meetings is, this is kind of our current reality. How do we provide a good product for the landmen who are still here, for the companies who are still here? Vital still has a good role in Tulsa. We're proud to have them, try to keep their membership active and hopefully engaged. So part of it is, doing some stuff like this, doing this podcast deal, trying to think outside the box a little bit. I would say sponsor wise, we're trying to get a little bit more active a little earlier in the year, try to get out there and get in front of people and show them that there is a benefit to doing this. And then just making sure that we put on good educational programs and different things like that. The networking is obviously always a big deal.
For sure.
So, just trying to make sure that we stay in touch with the membership and let them know what's going on. And then there are needs that arise, know that they can reach out to us and conversations.
So, and this would really be for you and for anybody else in the audience of what are some topics that you see? So we've seen the landman profession change, right, over the past few years. We've seen renewable even get in the space, like even at NAPE. Like they have an entirely renewable pavilion. They had a Bitcoin pavilion too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the educational opportunities that may speak to, I don't want to just say a younger generation, but the next generation of land, or how does it continue to expand out? And Jerris, do you, like, if anybody here wants to kick it off, like throw a hand up in the air and you might win something here in a second.
A slap bracelet?
Absolutely not a slap bracelet. I can promise you not a slap.
Much better than a slap bracelet.
That's right.
Well, that's impossible.
Jerris, what topics would you think of, or what do you think we're going to see at like upcoming NAPEs or AAPL national conventions?
I mean, just speaking from my own experience and observation, I give, I don't know, probably 15 to 20 talks per year on AI and how to use AI in the land profession, whether that be in-person education deals or whether that be webinars. I mean, there's huge demand of people who are curious about that. One, they're curious about it as a tool and resource about how can they utilize it to better their job. And then there's a lot of people who are just genuinely concerned of, is it going to take my job? And so I personally get a lot of requests to share that education across national associations and local chapters, et cetera. So that's definitely a hot topic. And then some of the things that we're talking about tonight, what are ways that people can stay engaged and stay relevant in the job that they're doing? So speaking of AI and speaking of different lessons learned, one of the things that I did is I took all the transcripts from our first batch of podcasts and I threw them into AI and said, what are some lessons that have been learned that are worth sharing? And just to give 6 bullet points that it kicked out. And these are all things that have already been said tonight. And so these ideas really resonate with everybody. Mentorship matters. Education is key. Enhancing negotiation skills, being adaptable. So understanding what is happening around you and being willing to adapt to that, largely with technology. Having professionalism, and then the buzzword of the night is networking, like the value of networking. So these are topics that have been discussed for decades and generations in this profession, and they're just as relevant today as they were, back when Kosho started.
Yeah, I definitely. Is anyone in here? Is the company that you're working with anybody either implementing or utilizing any sort of AI engine currently? Okay. The more and more, so Jerris said he does like quite a few. I mean, he's speaking all over the nation the entire year on AI. I speak on a lot of different topics, and AI is one of them, and not to the depth, obviously, that Jerris does, but it has been so interesting to be able to talk to so many different groups like this, and you see more and more hands going up. Each one, you see more and more hands going up if we're using it. And I would say, if you are not actively looking at how your company, and I mean, I don't care if you've been doing this for 30 plus years, again, or if you're just getting into it, if you're not familiar with some of these different engines, or even like a Chat GPT, if that is something that you're not utilizing, try it out. And every day, give it a prompt, give it a prompt for something that would help you with your business, and you will be amazed at how it can help, how it can shave minutes off your days, hours off your month. Think of what you could do with a little bit more time. That has been one of the most unique things. It's a little bit intimidating for a lot of people. I think a lot of kind of on that, the lease analyst, division order analyst, owner relations analyst, kind of in that land admin side. I think there's going to be some big changes that are going to happen in the next 5 years. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because I think it really does allow for some great opportunity for people. We've got to be very cognizant that the times are changing, and we've got to be at the forefront of it. So I would definitely challenge everybody to take that mindset for sure.
I would say probably the biggest challenge is people afraid of getting started. And so just individual fear or concerns or skepticism or confusion, like just getting over all of that is probably the biggest challenge that I hear about. And the opportunity that I would say is to try it. There's really no way to fully understand what it's capable of unless you actually just jump in and try it. Drew mentioned ChatGPT. That's definitely the most popular one. I could rattle off a whole list of different LLMs and things that people can try. At the beginning, I mentioned Roland. Roland is one that we made specifically for land professionals. And so it has been trained and curated on information and knowledge that you need to know for the land profession. And really, your imagination is kind of the limit of how you can utilize these AI tools. The 4 things that I typically say that you ought to think about using it is reading, writing, training, and knowledge retention. And so if your job happens to touch anything involving reading or writing, you should definitely be trying this out.
So I will not say the name, but they are Tulsa local. There's a group that does AI for field and operational, being able to get the information in from the field, give suggestions on what needs to be done at those well sites to maximize production value. And it's pretty cool. And they just came online this month. So I think that probably narrows it down for anybody that's on LinkedIn. You may have already seen that. There's a lot of things that I've seen change before. We're talking about how this has grown up over the last few months and years. I think it kind of started off with, if anybody was familiar with Grouper and ThoughtTrace, like if those names were familiar, that wasn't technically AI, but it was kind of marketed that way. And I think that got people kind of that, not false hope, but they thought it was going to be something different than what it was. And now, like Jerris is talking about, there's so many more groups that are kind of working in that same, like from the energy consulting space, we're talking to a considerable amount of majors and super majors. And if you don't think that that's one of the forefront things that they're pushing forward for 2025 and beyond, I mean, it is at the top of their list. They're doing a lot of build out internally, but they're also leveraging the exact same programs and people that you guys are able to use.
It's interesting how it helps you get outside of the box that your whole career has been in and helps you see different perspectives. And you're able to get those perspectives 24/7, 365. Anytime you need that assistance is there for you. And that's what I think is one of the coolest things about it. I would say that the agentic work, so you giving it a task and it going out and performing that task, it's still largely beta. It's very rudimentary. I was playing with the tool not too long ago to where I asked it. So basically I had command over a computer and I told the computer, go and research all the oil and gas regulations for the state of Oklahoma and draft a report on it. And that's all I did. And I watched the computer go and open up a web browser. It opened up the web browser and it began searching in the search bar to be able to find where to locate oil and gas regulations. And it identified, well, the Oklahoma Corporation Commission manages that. And then it went and it started pulling up the different regulations and it opened up Notepad on that computer and it began typing it out. Now I'll say, like, the product was terrible. Like it did a really, really bad job. But the fact that it tried to do the job was astonishing. And now starting to see some of the deep search capabilities that some of the models have. It's conducting some of that research that isn't quite like driving a computer, but it's more than just going to a website. It's digging down into several levels of the website. So I think back in December, I said that I believe that we'll see worthwhile, capable agentic functions happening by the end of this calendar year. And I still think that's very possible. I wouldn't set up high expectations for it just yet, but the sheer fact that the computer is going out and doing that stuff is pretty remarkable and terrifying, depending on how you want to look at it.
I would just say, as kind of my closing thing with anything AI, only as good as the information that it's being fed, right? I mean, that is the main thing. And so data has kind of been the name of my game, and talking to these companies and being able to say, okay, you want all of this information back, or you want to do these reports to be able to give to your executive committee. Where is that information coming from, and can you trust it? If you did a merger and you brought over this information, do you trust that information? Do you need someone to go in and clean it up? Do you need to go through and use a program to go through and make those cleansing to be able to get the best reporting possible? It's learning how to do that, but like Jerris said, we still have a good human element to be able to go through to make sure that data is in its absolute best possible form. And so we're going to take that in.
Yeah.
So, guys, we really appreciate it. Thank you again for letting us do this. This has been a blast. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
Do you guys shut down? I don't want to be on.
We never know if it's on or off. It may have not even recorded. Did you hit record?